And there are 3 or 4 things in here that I want you to look at. On slide 6 here, the structure of the code. So there are 4 areas: responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty are the sections that they refer to as the core values. And then what PMI has done is they've established aspirational goals and mandatory goals in each of those 4 areas. So for responsibility, you'll have aspirational and mandatory goals. Respect, right? You'll have goals in those 2 areas, et cetera, et cetera. Fairness and honesty. So if you will spend the time it takes to walk through these slides, 25 slides or so, and look at what's in there, there's nothing that's going to say, oh, that's surprising to me. It's the kind of things where your grandmother or your mother and father or whoever you see as a mentor to you or a model to you about the way you're supposed to treat people in terms of being fair and taking responsibility and being honest in your dealings. That's what you're going to see. I would just say, take the time to look through those. For example, what is responsibility? Duty to take ownership for the decisions we make, actions we take, and the consequences. What are the aspirational standards? Make decisions and take actions based on the best interest of society, public safety, and the environment. So those that is one of the aspirational goals for responsibility in this code of ethics. Again, it won't surprise you at all, but take the time to look through those and read that. It'll take you less than 15 minutes. And then when you see something about this on the test, you'll know where to find that. And I'll say to you, if you plan to take the PMP exam, this is a kind of a situation where they will show you some kind of a situation and want you to do analysis, and you'll need to know what's in here and sometimes where to find it. Okay? Respect. What is it? What are the aspirational standards? What are the mandatory standards? Negotiate in good faith. Do not behave in an abusive manner toward others. Respect the property rights of others. So again, won't surprise you at all, but take some time to go through those. And then I'll talk to you about procurement just in a minute. All right, do you guys want to say anything? Do an introduction of any sort?
Video, so I think it speaks for itself.
Right.
Killed the radio.
Rocky's not here, but he thought it looked bad he wasn't here, but he's helping people out in Louisiana. So.
Okay. And so this is your 3-member team, and you have the written report that you'll send me. Correct. Sometime before the finals due.
Yes.
And I think I really only have something from 2, maybe 3 teams saying this is our team. So maybe a bad assumption, but I'm assuming that you all got teamed up into groups of 3 and are working this. All right, let's see what happens if I hit play here.
Yeah.
No signal.
He's looking for a battery.
I'm just concerned that I'd rather have.
Yeah, I'm ready to get it done. But I was just thinking if it's not done by the second, then we're still, we don't have to.
Fantastic.
You guys did it? We said no editing. Come on.
You edited your video?
No.
Sorry, our video is completely edited, there's nothing filmed.
Alberto.
He's back. I still wish you would let me spoof them. I was gonna do all the different professors.
Okay.
My team won't let me do it because they're such a project. I think that's been awesome.
Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
What y'all do, belly dancing or what?
I hope so now. Maybe we should move that back away from
Guess this is gonna set the bar for everybody.
that.
Pretty low.
Bill had to go first. Somebody's gotta lead.
To just stay on the blue screen, we have to use our imagination.
Yep.
That was the video. Might want to turn it down.
You guys have like a stereo right there, or do you put the music into it? Oh.
Nick
We just found a
edited their
plastic bag
video.
rolling around.
Bad. Are you not doing edits on yours?
Ready?
Well, let's turn it down to 7 again.
Point is that a lot of things have to come together to create a new weapon, and it takes teamwork. Good, old-fashioned teamwork.
Gentlemen, our mission was to design and implement an infantry transport vehicle that would be a worthy replacement for the M113 armored personnel carrier. We have met that objective and then some. The Bradley armored personnel carrier will bring troops to a combat zone swiftly, efficiently, and safely. It will hold 11 men, plus a driver, and features a 20mm cannon, which will provide ample firepower and at the same time flexibility. Lightly armored, speedy, and solidly engineered, our troops will be arriving at the battlefield in the very finest American technology has to offer. And at $1.5 million per, a real bargain. Nice work, Colonel.
Outstanding. Damn impressive.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us how much has been spent so far to develop the Bradley?
How much?
Well, you have the figures, don't you?
Of course, Brilliant. So, here's my proposition. You have 30 days in which to spend $30 million. If you can do it, you get $300 million. There's gotta be a catch. Of course there's a catch. You have to spend the $30 million. But after 30 days, you're not allowed to own any assets. No houses, no cars, no jewelry. Nothing but the shirt on your back. So, sounds easy, don't it? Yeah. You'll find out.
Like what? Well, like people outside the church, ordinary men and women. Why don't you ask Jack? No, I think it might embarrass him. Why? You saw the way he acted when he found out I was a nun. This is a very heavy subject. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, you don't know the half of it. Listen to this letter I received from an ex-nun. I'm going to include it in my thesis.
I get it. Hello? Yeah? Sure. Okay. Okay, I'll tell her. Goodbye.
I'm leaving the convent. I never thought I would do such a thing. But I've just met a man who's shown me what it is to feel alive. He's kind, warm, and understanding. And best of all, he has the most wonderful sense of humor. A man who can make me laugh like that is a man I want to spend the rest of my life with. What's the matter? Jack, you look like you've seen the devil.
I probably will. One of you must for this. Unless I'm simply walking to Mordor. Its black gates are guarded by more than just orcs. There is evil there that does not sleep. And the great eye is ever watchful. It is a barren wasteland, riddled with fire and ash, dust. The very air you breathe is a poisonous fume. Not with 10,000 men could you do this. It is folly.
Have you heard something Lord Elrond has said? The ring must be destroyed.
I suppose you think you're the one to do it.
And if we fail, what next? What happens when Sauron takes back what is his?
I will be dead before I see the ring in the hands of an elf. So much
The theme of the trucks in the beginning and trucks at the end, our project was a mobile learning facility. So we're gonna take a trailer and build a facility that has several different safety scenarios that you can wheel up into a company's parking lot, and they contract you to do safety training with your folks. So that's where the trailer park came from.
Okay.
So here's the question to the class, or two requirements, right? Presentation and content. What do you think about the presentation?
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Well done, very creative, but being super creative is one thing, but is the content covered? Yeah, thought that was nicely done, and the whole creativity with the different
Did you get him?
movies. And did you guys watch the whole thing on that?
Pentagon
Change-
Wars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that hilarious? The whole change management thing is, if any of the others of you have not seen that thing, it's worth watching. It's not super long, is it?
No, it's a HBO movie, but yeah, it went on for like 20-some years, that project.
Yeah. And the
It started as
change
a troop-
management
It
piece
started
of
as a
it,
troop carrier and it ends up being a tank.
it meets no one's requirements. Nobody won't carry enough people. It's too heavy. It's
There's no
too
armor.
slow. It's not
We would
strong
have used
enough.
just that movie, but we couldn't get all the aspects of the project and the, you know, the content covered with just that movie.
Yeah, no, I think that was well done, and I think I've said to some of you, you don't have to cover everything in your video that's covered in your project report, but that was well done, where you guys, covered the pieces. What is the piece? Why do I have that piece? And then enough entertainment to keep me engaged, or to keep a person engaged. It happened to keep me engaged, but, the question for everybody else is, do you learn something from that? Is that a learning tool where you could learn something about project management, and what are the pieces and why? Is that something you would watch again? Yeah, for me, probably. I would, I would expose other classes to it and say, okay, here's kind of an overview of what we're talking about when we talk about project management and the pieces and the parts. Okay, so nice job.
Appreciate it. I like being
And,
cut off the knees.
I think any other videos we see, I'm interested to see if they
Thanks for
rise
setting
to
that bar
this
so high, guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
to this level of entertainment.
You know, karma sucks.
Yeah, all right.
Now, was that y'all actually building it with software?
It's called a Kerbal Space Program, and it's a speed build that people did. Like, you make different aircraft or spacecraft and launch them into space.
So did y'all actually download the software and build your thing?
No, that was a speed build that somebody did.
Oh,
We stole it.
that makes me feel better.
Yeah. It's all borrowed, right? For
Well,
They
I
get
cited
credit.
educational purposes. All right. No, nicely done. Very, very well done.
It's gonna look like that.
Elementary school.
You can tell Rocky whatever you want to tell him about.
Elma didn't go so well.
Hey, I mean,
Big shoes to fill in the
To
video.
give him due credit, the whole project kind of was an idea he'd been kicking around for a long time, so he kind of picked the path and set us on the path to start with, so it's good to have a path instead of having to create one. And he gave us that vision, so that was good.
And you're making a good point there. I'd like to share, or have you guys share with the class. What did you learn from this exercise in terms of content and process?
You mean the movie or our project?
You having to do it and then doing it this way. What did you learn?
I don't know, I don't speak for everybody, but after you learn, put together your project and you learn what's in a communication plan and, risk assessment and the different pieces, trying to find something that illustrates that, you had to keep reviewing, okay, what is that made up of in your head, and going through, spending the time going through all these different clips and things to find something that met it, I guess just created some repetition on what you were trying to accomplish.
And see, you guys went, you put a significant amount of work into that, right? So there's another extreme where a person stands there and talks from the, you know, the talking head kind of thing. And I said, move away from that. Well, you guys moved way away from that. And so that's well done and something that I think can be used in a lot of different contexts. But it sounds like it was also kind of exercise that I'm going to learn something about project management, or at least I'm going to remind myself and dig deeper into each one of these areas. So it's, you know, it's the third and fourth and fifth and sixth time I see the content, and now I know what's in a communications plan or a risk analysis.
And the other good thing is Mike has started his own video editing company, so if you all want some
Yeah, if anyone needs help
Nominal
editing their
charge.
video, because they're not due for 2 more weeks now.
My wife and divorce.
Okay, let's don't go down that path. All right, how do I get back to where I was with the? Thank you, sir. All right, let's go with let's we have 3 more books again. 1,
Are you doing yours?
1, 2. Was there a third one over here? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do those.
Sure.
Fire over.
So I'm sure that up to this point, everybody has had some sort of course in communication or bettering their communication. Maybe this was like public speaking or whatnot. You've probably heard the phrasing that you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. The book that I read, Made to Stick, by Heath and Heath, kind of takes these concepts a step further. The whole book focuses on 6 characteristics of what make ideas stick, what makes them more sticky. The ideas or the characteristics are simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories. They even come up with another acronym, SUCCESS, spelled SUCCES. Of these, I think the easiest one for myself to wrap my head around is concrete. And they use a good example in the book of when Boeing was setting out to build or create the 727 in the 1960s. They set forth a very detailed list of requirements for their designers that the plane had to meet, which included that the aircraft would have to fly from Miami to New York nonstop, that it would have to haul 131 people, and then it would have to land on a runway that was a little bit less than a mile. You know, if they'd just been given a goal such as, you know, just build the best aircraft in the world, that wouldn't have gotten them very far. They could have been all over the place, right? I think that the book itself ties very well with project management, and we've been told that 90% of a project manager's job is communication. So anything that we can do to better help or kind of hone our skills in relaying information to our audience, why not? Chapter 10 of the PIN block obviously deals with communication, so I would definitely recommend the book.
Okay, good deal. Give us again the success, the elements there.
Sure. Simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories.
So when we talk about inspiring a shared vision and getting our team on the same page and making sure that the project, we're all talking about the same project, there's a set of concepts that would help us figure out what we need to say and how we need to say it. And when they talk about the stories part of that, they talk about getting your message into something that people will relate to, right? And that's the whole use and concept. Has anybody else read this by any?
I read Switch.
Okay.
Which is really good from like a motivational standpoint.
Okay.
another aspect of funding.
So and this one is made to stick.
Mhm.
So, and you do recommend it?
Absolutely.
As a book you would read as a manager or as a project manager? All right, nicely done, thank you.
Okay. The book that I selected is the 10 Natural Laws of Successful Time and Life Management. And basically I chose it because you guys were all faster than I was, and it was down there on the list, and it had the word time management in it, which is one of the tenets of project management. This book by Hiram W. Smith summarizes how to develop a life philosophy based on planning and scheduling to help organize priorities, manage time, guide decisions, and guide decisions to gain control both in one's personal and professional life. So basically, this book is not just for work. It focuses more at an individual level too. Mr. Smith is one of the founders of and Chief Executive Officer of Franklin Quest Company. In this book, he relates his philosophies regarding time management while advocating the tools and products for his company. So at first I thought I was in an infomercial. He uses many anecdotes from his own personal experiences, including the seminars that he has presented for Franklin Quest. He demonstrates that if you can manage your time, you can manage your life and have inner peace. Smith explains that managing your time is more than having a schedule or checking off items on a list. So that was one of the things that in my life I've always had problems with. I check off a list, and at the end I'm like, what did I accomplish? And so this is kind of, this book and what his philosophy kind of talks to that. Each chapter of the book describes one of 10 natural laws related to time management and takes the reader on a journey of self-evaluation by explaining how each law relates to decisions and goals that individuals make. It explains the concepts of a personal constitution, the productivity pyramid, SMART goals, ABC value systems, the needs wheel, the belief window, and how these tools relate to time management and controlling your life. He also discusses why individuals do not set goals or fail to set goals. So basically, people procrastinate, they have time robbers, and there are all these things that they do that aren't in their self-interest because they have not established a personal constitution or have set goals for themselves. The foundation of this process requires that each individual establish a governing value system and a personal philosophy. First, he suggests that individuals must establish a written personal constitution. This is a ranked personal list of life goals where you imagine yourself as you want to be. To aid with this task, the author asks you to imagine yourself on top of a very tall building that is connected to another very tall building by an I-beam. He then asks, what is important enough to you that would make you walk across that I-beam? He basically is asking, what is important enough to you that would cause you to risk death? So for most people, that's their family or their children. But there are a lot of things in life that we wouldn't walk across that I-beam for, and in our lives, we do things that aren't really of value to us because we haven't really considered how important they are. The items that you list are the basis for your personal constitution. To achieve the values established in your personal constitution, Smith explains that you must also establish long-term and short-term goals based on 4 basic needs: life, love, self-esteem, and variety, known as the needs wheel. He advocates that goals must be SMART, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. A lot of you at Y12, maybe at ORNL too, that's what we do our performance reviews on every year, is using that concept. So, determine the priorities of these goals is based on the priorities established as part of your personal constitution. When establishing a daily task list, you are instructed to determine how the task item relates to your personal constitution or goal and assign a rank to the task according to the rank in your personal constitution. By performing tasks based on ranking, you will focus your time on what is important to you. Decisions will be made more easily, eliminating regrets for undone tasks. Smith explains that your personal constitution will need to be reevaluated and updated as you gain more experiences and new perspectives as you mature. These experiences form belief windows. This is a concept where your individual values are determined by your personal experiences and perceptions of situations which may or may not be based in reality. By evaluating your individual belief window, you can better understand yourself and how your beliefs influence your decisions. By understanding your reality, you may actually change your beliefs and grow as an individual. Also, Mr. Smith emphasizes how important it is to write down your personal constitution. The act of doing this will help you to see yourself as you currently are and will help you to learn who you really want to be. Both determination and willingness to leave your comfort zone are required to achieve these goals. It is not just enough to establish goals. From a project management perspective, this book relates to the concepts of time management and scheduling. It includes planning and communication. The suggested approach is for the individual to set aside uninterrupted time each morning that the author calls the magic hours. The individual should use this time to review what happened the previous day and plan what needs to be done to accomplish one's top priorities using a planning system like the Franklin Planner. Items beyond the normal urgencies should also be included. During this time, the individual should also consider personal values and priorities. If your tasks are aligned with your goals and values, then you feel empowered to make the decisions that are right for you, motivating you to accomplish your goals, eliminating the need for guilt related to how you have spent your time. It is important to note that the author does not judge what is a good or bad goal, but instead says that you should know what your goals are. He also requires that you determine if your goals are based on reality or on your belief window. Although some might find the paper-based planning calendar references in this book a bit dated, the life philosophies are still relevant. If you are someone who uses the Franklin Quest products, who is trying to figure out how to better manage your time, or who wants to determine why you are not fulfilled even if you complete the items on your to-do list, this book is recommended. If you want to go on a personal journey of self-evaluation to learn more about yourself, who you are and what you value, you can benefit from its contents.
You recommend it or not?
I recommend it. I don't think it's for everybody. I mean, I think to get benefit out of it, you have to be willing to invest in it and be honest with yourself and go through the plan. I didn't go through what the 10 steps were. I mean, the 10 natural laws were, because I have 5 minutes. I think I've gone over my time already. But I think if you're younger, it's a good thing to start out with having done this. And he gives several examples in the book where he's done this with children and in schools, and people come to his seminars and they'll have this aha moment in their life. And so if you're someone who feels like you're just not happy in your job or not happy in your life, or you're always having guilt about decisions, then you might want to read this.
And from you got really pragmatic as you talked about the application to project management. Do you think it has broader application?
Oh, actually, when I was looking at this, I thought it's kind of like the project for your life, the project management tool for your life, because it was like, okay, you're going to set your goals, you're going to communicate things to people, I mean, go through the whole process. You're going to plan for things, you're going to execute your plan, and you're going to have these task lists or your work breakdown structure, and you're going to manage it. And so as you change your values and your mind on things, you're going to modify what your constitution is, and it means you're going to change the tasks that you do, and then you're going to get to a point where you're happy and content in your life. And
So for me, has anybody else read this book by any chance, this 10 Natural Laws? For me, there's several really interesting concepts. The whole concept of a belief window, I really like the way he describes it. And ultimately what he's talking about is we all have paradigms. We make decisions because we believe certain things to be true, right? Dogs are dangerous, therefore I act by what? Staying away from dogs. I don't like dogs. Now I'm not talking about me, I think a person. I happen to like dogs. But if my belief is dogs are dangerous, I'm going to act certain ways. Whether or not that belief is true or not, I'm going to act that way. So that whole concept of, I believe projects are always late, therefore what?
projects are late.
Well, how am I going to act so that that happens? I'm not gonna worry about the schedule, right? It's gonna be late anyway. I'm not gonna, huh?
Well, it's a
I
suggestion.
actually believe that, so yes.
Right? So we act that way, and it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you go through some of these things and you start to think, I believe these things, therefore this is the way I act. If I want my team to act differently, what do? I have to challenge our beliefs, right? And I have, right?
Yeah.
It is possible. And if I can understand that projects are late because what have we learned about why projects are late so much?
Project manager's fault.
Right?
Project manager's fault. That is true. But what's at the core of why they're late?
Change.
That's a big deal. But we learned something specifically about individual tasks. If a task finishes early, how's that help you?
It doesn't.
No value added to insurance.
Yeah, it doesn't help you at all. But if a task is late, what happens? Then the schedule's delayed, right? So we always get the bad thing. We never get the good thing, right? Always and never. But so our you see how if we challenge that, so that whole concept was really good for me. There is some stuff in there that I go, yeah, you know.
So there are a lot of things in here, things that are in the other systems engineering book that we studied, the fifth discipline, a lot of the learning organization concepts, the performance excellence stuff that Y12 is going through right now. So a lot of the concepts you'll be like, oh, I've seen that before, or you're about to see it because it's something that I guess is.
And
the
did you
end
notice
goal.
a relationship between that and the needs hierarchy? That he
Yeah.
talks about four
Oh,
needs.
Yeah, he talks about the two are actually one vertical and horizontal, that it's two ways of basically getting to the same place.
Yeah.
Or two ways of presenting the same
We're driven to meet a certain set of needs, so therefore we do certain things. And we act certain ways because we believe certain things. So it's really mind-opening. Now, some of the issues are the kinds of people we are, and I'm talking about we in general, and some of us aren't this way, but we're very much list makers, left-brained, and then we'll read something like this and go, right? Right? But if we open our mind and just say, is there some piece of truth here that could help me as a project manager, as a leader, with my family, with my management of one of the scariest things that's happened to me as an instructor is we were teaching in Huntsville, and I had this lady come up and she goes, "You have convinced me to quit my job." And I thought, crap, your boss is paying me to do this class, so what are you talking about? But she said, I went through this whole thing of evaluating my core values and evaluating my, the way I make decisions. What I've realized is my goals and my mission and my organization's mission and goals don't align. We're like this. And so that's why I'm always feeling this disconnect and discontinuity.
And he talks about that because the author went through a thing where with his company that the company that he worked over before he did the Franklin company, that he realized that he didn't believe what they believed and he didn't want to be there. So in a very difficult time in his life when things were going on and he needed a job, he decided to quit. And everybody thought he was crazy. And then he started preaching the values of his concepts, and it started taking hold with people, and it was very beneficial to him personally. And so then because people saw that, they started buying into his way of thinking, and this Franklin Covey stuff is pretty big industry. So,
Any other comments or thoughts? Questions, anyone? All right, nicely done. Did we have another? I was thinking there was one more. Somebody else ready with their book?
I'm not ready.
You're what? You're not?
I'm not ready, but I can do it.
Okay, yeah. And at the next class then, if you did your book today, send me the written report, okay, so that I have it. And then I'm not sure, how many do we have left? Who has not done one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all right, we're gonna be good then. So for the last class, we'll do those book reports, and then we'll have groups. And what?
Yeah. I think there's about 8, because Dane had, and I don't think Rocky has any.
Okay, so there may be 8 or 9.
Rocky do his?
Okay.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna really stress the 3 to 5 minute thing on the,
Sorry.
and then the videos, how many groups do we have? We've done one today.
We're one group.
We got a group here.
1, 2, 3,
4.
4,
5.
5. Okay, we should be okay, Tom.
Yeah, 5 times 4.
Huh? Okay, all right.
Our video.
All right. As long as we do what? Okay, as long as we know we have the technology thing worked out so they work. That's the piece
Yeah. Got to record it.
yeah, it looks like that'll work.
Are you gonna have to
Bring them on a flash drive that
Well, I
we
left
can,
the music high, so you can tell
okay.
and then, is it okay if I put this one up on Dropbox to use later?
The music.
You guys okay with
Hear
that?
what music's in the background, but when I actually
Okay,
found it,
then before I give you this back, I'm
Don't
gonna,
get sued by Universal Studios.
For educational, not profit.
yeah, there you go. And I'm not gonna use it for any other purpose. Can you get me back to where this was?
I'm putting a note in mine that all royalties are to be paid out to all 3 of us in the background. I haven't hardly used a flash drive. I started to put it at the end. I used to have them around my neck.
Okay, give me just a few minutes to walk. I'm not going to go through these slide by slide, but there are a few concepts in the procurement section that you're gonna need to know for the exam. I suspect that a lot of you are familiar with these concepts because of the kind of work you do and the job that you do, but I want to make sure that I at least point to you, or point you at some of them. Here we go. Buyers and sellers. Depending on which seat you're sitting in as a project manager, are you a buyer or a seller? That's the point. You can be both, depending on where you are, right? And when you're taking the test, you need to read the question and think about the situation that they're talking about, because you could be buying from a vendor, or you could be doing a project for someone, in which case you might be the seller, right? And then bidder, select a source, vendor, right? Those fall under seller, but thinking about the kinds of situational questions they might ask, pay attention to the where you are in the question to know, what that situation is. Then you guys, here we go. Types of contracts. Understanding that fixed price contracts, cost reimbursable contracts, time and material contracts. The issue to think about and to understand here is, where does the risk sit? So if I'm doing a fixed price contract and I'm the performer of that contract for you, who has the primary risk?
You.
I do, right? So what does that mean to you? Do you expect to pay more or less?
More.
You're going to pay more because you're paying me to take that risk, right? In general, and I know, I don't know, but I hope that a lot of you are going, yeah, but, right? Because on a situation by situation, things might change. But in general, if I'm doing a fixed price contract for you, I'm taking on some risk. Now, as the performer, what's the relationship I have with the scope of work on a fixed price contract? Horribly asked question. So help me out here.
You really have to define it to the intricate detail, because if you leave anything up for question,
You're responsible.
you're gonna be in trouble.
That's right. So understanding that concept is really important from a project management perspective. If I'm going to perform a fixed price piece of work for you, I'm going to nail it down to the nth degree. What's the other truth about that? If I build that box around it and you want me to do something that's not in that box, what happens?
Your price will go.
Change, transfer the risk back to the person paying.
Change. More money, right? And now there's risk with you. So understand that concept. Why would I do I'm sorry, not why. In what kinds of situations would I do cost reimbursable work? Or would you want me to do cost reimbursable work?
If you're the one paying and there's many different twists that could happen and there's not really a way to define it concretely and you want the flexibility.
The one he said about it's not really easy to define, that's kind of at the core of why would I want to do that. He said something at the end that's also very interesting and intriguing. I might want flexibility. So one of the things PMBOK talks about is research and development, or let's just call it development kind of activities. I might want to do cost reimbursable work because I want flexibility. I don't know for sure what I want. So you guys as project managers want to understand the relationship between my ability to define the scope and the contracting or procurement vehicles I might want to use to accomplish that piece of work. Okay? Well defined, easy to document, then I might want to do fixed price. But all right, flexibility, and then time and materials, kind of a hybrid. Make or buy analysis. Understand that concept. Sometimes all that means is, and you see this at Y12 and ORNL a lot, all that means is, are we going to subcontract this to somebody else? Or are we going to do it with our people? Right? So do I have a contract vehicle? Can I make it happen very quickly? Or do we already have the people? Do they have the time? All right? Ultimately, you're going to end up with a procurement plan, right? It's going to lay out all of these things that are listed here. Take a look at these. What kind of contracts are we going to use? When are we going to self-perform? Those kind of issues that you would expect to see. An output procurement statements of work. I won't always have them at the beginning, but if I'm going to buy some stuff as a part of my procurement strategy or my procurement plan, then I'm going to need to prepare some statements of work. And as I prepare those statements of work, then can you make a connection between the kind of vehicles I might want to use to do that work? Yeah, in these situations I'll do, right? Again, I just want you to start to think about that. Because those kind of questions make really nice test questions, right? All right, and then there were a couple more things. Oh, conduct procurements, then there are some tools that you're going to use. Some of these you're very familiar with, bidder conferences, site visits, those kind of things. In your space, where do you see independent estimates being used?
Electrical work, HVAC work, things that we don't have a professional on staff to be able to do.
Okay, and that's very specific. I was thinking a little bit more generically. I mean, that is a true statement. You'll use independent estimates when you go get government estimates to validate things that you get from bids that you get in, right? Again, not well said, but there's a reason to go get an independent estimate, and in the government space, there's a well-defined process for getting independent estimates. All right, and then did somebody have a thought or
Yeah, the
yeah?
independent estimate, is that something that you're giving to, validate what you've already gotten?
In the space we live in, yes, that's exactly what you're doing. Is the government. What's funny about that is the government does these what they call ICE review, independent cost estimates, and how do they actually accomplish those? They go get a contractor. Right?
Somebody that's not supposed to be independent.
That's not bidding on the work, so therefore, they're a government estimate, independent cost review or independent cost estimate, but they're really done by another set of contractors, and who is probably, they're doing ICE reviews here in Oak Ridge, and they're doing actual, contract work at Savannah River and Los Alamos, so, but that's fine too. In the project management world, that's a tool we use to make sure that we're getting realistic bids. And then control procurements. Now we start talking about claims and collecting data and performance reviews against the contracts that we have, and actually managing contracts. And again, in the space we live, there are organizations to do that. As a project manager, you need to understand that that's one of our responsibilities. I don't necessarily do the contract management on a regular basis, but that's something that you're responsible for as a project manager. So bidding the work and getting the contracts in place and depending on somebody to perform the work is something that we kind of, intuitively understand that's my responsibility. But overseeing those people is also something that we're responsible for. And then closing out procurements. When it's all said and done, there are not a lot of